Hey everyone, sorry it's been so long since my last video. You can tell a little bit of time's gone by. One, because I got a longer beard. I've been focusing on moving, getting the new shop set up, and also raising this little guy here. Come here. This is my puppy, Kaladin. He helps me with all my work. My other dog, Zoe, is also in the room. But today we are making belts. The reason we're making belts is, well, I've lost a little bit of weight through this pandemic. And at the same time, my friend had kind of the opposite issue where he may or may not have gained a little bit of weight. His wife asked me to make a belt, and I was like, let's solve this problem for both me and him. Now, how does this relate to my laser cutter? Well, I'm not very good at drawing on leather. It's hard to draw with pencil, but I'm really good at drawing in CAD. Now what I did is I made a little template on the laser, and using this template, we will actually trace it out and do some leather carving. Oh, man, there is so much work to be done, and I'm really excited. Though, thanks to the magic of YouTube, it's gonna seem like I'm done just like that. But no, this is gonna be probably about a 2-week project. Before we really dive into it, I want to talk about what on earth I'm actually doing. So we have my laser cut template, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to mark it into the leather. And first thing we do is we actually wet the leather so it will take marks really easily. Once it's marked, we'll actually hammer in some bevels, and that will allow us to have a really popping design. From there, we'll dye the leather, and then we'll coat it with a waterproof seal. That way, we can't come back and accidentally ruin it next time it gets wet. The most important thing in any leather worker's setup is their lighting. I have these really cool pool lamps that allow me to kind of arrange these wherever I need them. And that gives me a good line of sight of my workpiece and absolutely no shadows. And that's really critical, because if you make a mistake in leather, it's there forever. After that, we have my actual stamps. So you can tell I have quite the variety of stamps. And for this project, we'll be using about probably 5 or 6 different stamps. So you do need to build up a collection, though you can get started with just 1 or 2 stamps. That's no problem. Side note, I actually 3D rendered and printed this. I may sell these in the future. I haven't quite decided. Now, the next important thing is our polymol. Now, you're wondering why can't you just go use a hammer like you find at Home Depot? And the reason is, over time, you will damage the tool. You'll actually cause mushrooming at the top of your tool. And these things are expensive. You want them to last. Each one of these guys is about $7, though I have a few in there that cost upwards of $30 or $40 for really special ones. So these are an investment. You want them to last. Though if you're just getting started out, you can get away with using a metal one for a couple projects. But long term, you definitely want a polymol. This one's a Berry King. You don't have to buy Berry King. Alibaba has plenty of really cheap ones that work just as good. The next tool that we have, and this is one of the more interesting ones, is our swivel knife. A swivel knife may seem like a really dangerous fidget spinner. Do not do this. You'll stab your hand. I stab my hand all the time doing it. So do as I say, not as I do. So this is a swivel knife, and it's essentially a knife on a bearing. And this is an actual sharp knife. And what your goal is with this guy is to pull towards you, and you'll carve deep into the leather. And this allows you to create fine lines, which we'll use as the outlines and basis for our whole design. And the reason why these things swivel is it allows you to rotate the knife as you pull towards yourself. That way you don't have to move the piece. It's actually a really, really cool tool. And I haven't seen anything outside of leatherworking quite like it. All right, before we get started, I want to show you guys my original belt. I love this belt. It was one of my first major leatherworking projects, and it's the reason why I have a sewing machine now. If you look at this thing, I hand stitched this whole thing. I don't know how many thousands of stitches it was, All I know is it took me a good while to regain feeling in my fingers. I think it may have been 7,000. It was quite a few. Okay, so we're going to start our beveling now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bevel into the actual groove here. And this is going to allow us to create more of a three-dimensional shape. But I'll just get to it. It's pretty self-explanatory once you see it. The goal is to have it up just a little bit so you get a little bit of a bounce. You notice I'm also holding this guy like this. We're not actually hitting it like you would a normal hammer. The goal here is to get a nice, clean line. My favorite thing about leatherworking is that I get to experiment on every project. I make it a point not to do the same project twice. I always mix something up. So I do this just for a hobby. I don't actually sell my leatherworking. Sorry for everyone who wants to buy any of my work. That being said, my friend really wanted gold, and I'm just like, this is not going to look good. I tried to talk him into maroon, and he was willing to do anything I suggested, but it kind of got my head turning, like, what if I actually try to do something with gold? And I looked up online to see if there was any good leatherworking projects out of gold, and there's a few, but they're above my skill level. However, through experimentation, I found a result I really like. You know, the first couple is like, this looks terrible. It looks like I just rubbed gold glitter on top of another color, which is more or less what happened. But I was able to find a good combination with my gel dye. And so I'm actually combining two different types of dye here. I'm doing the water stain, which is more of a liquid, and this guy here is an actual gel. And what I'm going to show you tonight is me working on applying the second layer, which will give us a result hopefully like this, where we have the dark ridges, but we also have a nice reddish but still golden appearance, which I think is going to look very good and not like plastic, hopefully. If it does, I may cry. Now before we start, I want to kind of show the comparison between the two. And I'm not done with this one, but you can see this guy looks gorgeous already. I'm able to get some high contrast. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to fill this in with something. I may just leave it natural like this for a high contrast. And these are actually grooves I've applied for my sewing needle. And I did that by using this tool here and just running it along very carefully, because this tool is so easy to slip and you have a permanent gouge. I did this fairly mistake-free. I only have one mistake, and I'll let you try to spot it. I'm not going to say where it is. Now let's apply the gel dye on top of this guy, and we should get a very interesting effect. The problem with projects like this is you get started, and you just can't stop. I'm using one of these guys. You could use a paper towel, though you risk the paper being embedded in your project, which isn't a great look. These are nice. They're disposable. They're kind of expensive, in my opinion, compared to just a paper towel, but they also do the job really well. Another applicator you could use is a sponge. Now, the goal here is I don't want the dye to rest in one spot for too long before I get to it, else it will leave a darker spot that you won't be able to get rid of. I also don't want to leave this on here for too long, else it will be darker than we want, because we're kind of going for more golden. Now, I would normally actually let this sit for even longer, but there's nothing stopping us from applying multiple coats. And taking my paper towel, I'm just going to wipe this off. Because you can always go back and apply a second coat. You can't go back and unapply a coat once it's actually dried on there. And try to get it off your work table, else you'll get it on the other side of your belt. And same issue, you will create a dark spot. I don't mind it getting stuck in the grooves because we're going to have that sewn and we're not going to see too much. But if I wanted to create high contrast, I would try to get it in there. And this looks pretty good. It's going to line up even more as it dries. They're done drying, and I'm actually really happy with the result. Now, the one I'm keeping for myself, it looks solid. This is exactly what I wanted from the dye job. I decided to groove it and not dye it in, kind of giving a little bit of an extra contrast. Right now, it's a little too much contrast, but I think once I actually sew it together and get some wear, I think it's not going to be nearly as noticeable. Now, the one that we're all most interested in is the golden belt. And you can see from this side, it's very shiny and it's very gold, which isn't what we want, but on the actual engraved side, it is what we want, where you get a little metal sheen, but the rest of it looks like it's just normal leather, because we did not want to go for a plastic leather look. And I would say overall we're very successful. Now I'm going to be using a more interesting thread for this one at my friend's request. He really liked this gold red one, and I have absolutely no idea how this will look once we sew it together. And you know, that's half the fun, is an experiment. Okay, now we're on to one of the last steps, and that's to finish our edges. Finishing our edges is extremely important. If you don't finish them, they will fray over time, but most of all, I think if you don't finish your edges, your piece looks really cheap. That's actually how I judge a piece of leather. First thing I look at is, did they bother to finish the edges? Because if they're being lazy, they probably didn't do a good job everywhere else, right? So that being said, I am also a little lazy. I'm not going to sit here and have a 5-hour video of me doing this as entertaining as that would be. That actually probably would get 1 million views. YouTube, right? No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this tool, and this is a real rotary tool, not like your Dremel at home. This is a jewelry grade machine, and I like it. It's powerful, it won't jam up, and with the flex shaft you can do a lot more with it. You can also put other tools on here. I personally just mostly use it for burnishing. So we managed to take this little template and end with this gorgeous belt. We just need to create the belt holes and attach the buckle, and we're done. So we have the belt done now, and this is just a basic belt buckle while I find a more suitable one. I gave myself the flexibility. I can do a style like we saw in the other belt, or I can keep with the type we have on now. So we see everything fits, and I think this one came out fantastic as well. There we have it. Belt finished. All right, everyone, you made it to the end of the video. I'm so happy. I'm hoping that means that you really liked what I'm doing on this channel. And, you know, as a YouTube channel, I have to say it. Please like and subscribe. I know you hear it everywhere, but especially for new channels, it really helps. Now, if you, for some reason, didn't like the video, you can press dislike, but you have to press it twice. That's very important. Now, the only thing left that we have is to apply our Rosaline coating. And Rosaline is this kind of milky liquid. It's actually going to dry completely clear. It's an acrylic coating. And what it will do is make this waterproof. And it will also make it scratch resistant. We do enjoy patina, but we don't want a little rain to ruin our project. Now, I'm really happy with how this came out. I am just astonished at how well the gold came through. It was just the right amount of gold. It really gives this belt a really special sheen. I'm almost tempted not to give my friend this belt, but he knows I'm making it, so I guess I have to. Sorry, I don't know what happened to it. I must have got lost in the mail. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. You'll get this belt, and I really love my belt too. I do want a new buckle for it. I gotta find something that's within the same theme. Now, this project, I really just have to say, I really love leatherworking, and I love that it gives you the opportunity to explore and create and just do your own thing. We took this little wood template that I laser cut and designed in Adobe Illustrator. I just drew some lines and it turned into this. And I know creating and designing is intimidating for a lot of people. I've talked to many people on the forums who think that they can only do leatherworking from templates. And I hope this video has encouraged you to go out and try and design your own thing. At last, my pants will stay up.
Jim asked me how I feel about the belt. Well, it makes me feel like a boss. Like a pirate boss.